The sun was barely up over Los Angeles, California, when Lisa pulled into the cracked parking lot of La La Land Kitchen. The air was crisp, just under 50 degrees Fahrenheit, but inside her old sedan, it felt even colder. She sat for a moment, hands wrapped tight around the steering wheel, watching her breath fog up the windshield. For almost 3 years, this little diner tucked between a gas station and a laundromat had been her second home. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady, and right now, steady was all she could afford. Lisa was 26. With tired eyes and a kindness that some people mistook for weakness. She wore her hair pulled back, her uniform always clean, and her sneakers worn thin from double shifts. She'd learned long ago to keep her head down and her voice soft, especially in a place like La La Land Kitchen, where the customers were as unpredictable as the weather, and the staff even more so. Inside, the restaurant was already humming. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a pale glow over the faded booths and formica tables. The scent of burnt coffee and bacon grease hung in the air, mixing with the faint tang of cleaning supplies. Lisa tied on her apron, nodded to the line cook, and slipped behind the counter. It was just before 6 a.m., and the regulars would be rolling in soon: truckers, construction workers, and a few retirees who nursed their coffee for hours. She glanced around at her coworkers. Stephen, the senior waitress, was already at the register, scrolling through her phone and barely acknowledging Lisa's arrival. Matthew, a newer server, was chatting with a busboy, his laughter echoing a little too loudly in the quiet morning. The kitchen crew kept to themselves, heads down, moving with the practiced efficiency of people who'd done this 1,000 times before. Lisa had learned to read the room. She knew which customers got the best service, usually the ones in suits or with expensive watches, and which ones were barely noticed. She'd seen Stephen flirt with businessmen and ignore the guys in paint-stained overalls. She'd watched Matthew avoid certain tables altogether, muttering about bad tippers under his breath. There was an unspoken hierarchy here, and Lisa hated it. But she'd also learned that speaking up only made things harder. Still, she did her job. She smiled at every customer, remembered their orders, and never let the little slights get to her. She needed this job. Her rent was already too high for a one-bedroom, and her younger brother, Evan, was in his second year at California State. Their mom did what she could, but Lisa picked up the slack, covering textbooks, groceries, whatever Evan needed. He didn't know, and she never told him. She just sent a little extra when she could, taking every double shift that came her way. The hours were long, the pay wasn't great, and management barely cared. Daniel, the manager, was a fixture in the back office, only emerging when there was a problem or a complaint. He rarely smiled, and when he did, it never reached his eyes. Lisa kept out of his way, did her work, and tried not to attract attention. But sometimes, attention found her anyway. It was a Wednesday evening, slow and steady, the kind Lisa didn't mind. Fewer customers meant fewer complaints, fewer spills, and fewer fake smiles from her coworkers. She was refilling sugar dispensers at the counter when the bell above the door jingled. An older black man walked in, clean clothes. Nothing flashy, just a simple button-up and slacks. He paused, scanning the room, and Lisa recognized that look, cautious as if he was waiting to see what kind of welcome he'd get. Stephen didn't look up from her phone. Matthew glanced his way, then turned back to his conversation. No greeting, no. Welcome to La La Land Kitchen. Just silence. Lisa felt its weight, which was thick and uncomfortable. This wasn't an accident. Her coworkers had made a choice. For a second, she considered keeping her head down. It would be easier. It always was. But then she saw the man again, the way he stood there, waiting, giving them a chance to prove him wrong. So Lisa made her own choice. She wiped her hands, grabbed a menu, and walked over. Evening, sir, she said, her voice warm but casual. Just you tonight? He met her eyes, and something in his expression softened. Yes, ma'am, he said, his voice steady. She smiled and led him to a booth by the window. You okay with the booth? Perfectly fine, he replied, settling in. She handed him a menu and pulled a pen from behind her ear. Can I start you off with something to drink? Coffee, he said. Black. Coming right up. She moved quickly, pouring a fresh cup herself. She could feel Stephen's eyes on her. Matthew watching too, but she didn't turn around. She set the coffee down in front of the man, who glanced around before asking, You the only one working tonight? Lisa flicked her gaze toward the others. Feels like it sometimes, she said, making him chuckle. He flipped open the menu. What's good here? She thought for a moment. If you're looking for something solid, the pot roast is made fresh. But if you want my favorite, the grilled salmon's the way to go. He raised an eyebrow. That's so? She nodded. Promise you won't regret it. He smiled, small but genuine. Salmon it is. She jotted it down. Great choice. As she walked back to the kitchen, she heard Stephen mutter, She's wasting her time. Lisa clenched her jaw but kept walking. She placed the order and returned with a coffee refill, feeling the shift in the air. The way Stephen's eyes narrowed, Matthew kept glancing toward the booth. And even Daniel peeked out from his office. Lisa had the sinking feeling she just put a target on her back. But she wouldn't know how bad it was until the next morning. She barely slept that night. Something about the way Stephen had muttered, the way Matthew had smirked, the way Daniel had peeked out of his office, it all gave her a bad feeling. But she told herself she was overthinking. She'd done nothing wrong. If anything, she'd done exactly what a waitress was supposed to do, serve customers. So why did her stomach twist as she pulled into the parking lot the next morning? Inside, the usual rhythm was off. Stephen and Matthew weren't chatting. Instead, the air inside La La Land kitchen felt heavier than usual that morning. Lisa could sense it the moment she pushed through the front doors, something in the way Stephen and Matthew stood by the counter, arms crossed, eyes following her every move. The usual banter was gone, replaced by a silence so thick it made her skin prickle. The clock on the wall read 6:55 a.m., and the sun was just starting to climb above the rooftops outside, casting pale gold light across the faded tile floor. She tied on her apron, her hands moving on autopilot, but her mind was racing. She replayed the night before over and over. The older gentleman she'd served, the way Stephen and Matthew had watched her, and the manager Daniel's silent glances from his office. Lisa tried to brush it off. She'd done her job, nothing more. Nothing less. But the way everyone was acting now made it seem like they all knew something she didn't. Daniel's office door creaked open. Lisa, he called, his voice flat. Come with me. Every head in the diner turned. Lisa's Estanilac twisted, but she kept her chin up as she followed him to the cramped back office. The door clicked shut behind her. Daniel didn't waste time. He didn't look angry, just tired. We're letting you go, he said, sliding a folder across the desk. It's not working out. Lisa stared at him, stunned. What? I've been here almost 3 years. I've never missed a shift. Never been late. Daniel barely met her eyes. It's a decision we've made. You can collect your final paycheck next week. She felt heat rising in her cheeks. Is this because of last night? She asked, her voice trembling. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. Lisa's hands shook as she untied her apron and set it on the chair. She took a deep breath, forcing herself not to cry. You know this isn't right, she said, her voice steady. Daniel just shrugged, already reaching for the next file on his desk. She walked out. Past Stephen's smug smile and Matthew's poorly concealed satisfaction, past the smell of frying bacon and burnt coffee, out into the cold morning air. For the first time in nearly 3 years. She had no job, no safety net, no idea what came next. She sat in her car, gripping the steering wheel until her knuckles turned white. Her mind spun. How would she pay rent? How could she help Evan with groceries and books? The world felt suddenly, terrifyingly unstable. Her phone buzzed. At first, she ignored it, but the number was unfamiliar. With a shaky hand, she answered. Hello? A deep, steady voice came through the line. Lisa, this is Thomas Lyon. She blinked, confused. I'm sorry, who? The man you served last night at La La Land Kitchen. Her breath caught. Oh. Yes, sir. How can I help you? I heard what happened, Thomas said. That you were let go this morning. Lisa let out a bitter laugh. Yeah, well. Guess I should have just ignored you like everyone else. That's exactly why I'm calling, Thomas replied. Because this wasn't the end of your story. It's just the beginning. Lisa sat up straighter, her heart pounding. I don't understand. I wasn't just there for dinner last night, Thomas said. I was there to see how my employees treat people. I own La La Land Kitchen. The words hit her like a splash of cold water. You own the place? Yes. And last night, I was checking in, no formal inspections, no warning. That's how you learn the truth about how a business is being run. She was silent, trying to process. And what did you learn? She asked softly. That I have a serious problem with my staff, Thomas replied. And now, I know exactly who I can't trust to run my business the way it should be run. Lisa's voice was barely a whisper. So you let them fire me, just to prove a point? I know it wasn't fair, Thomas said, his tone gentler. But now I know who's right for this place. She swallowed her throat tight. What does that mean for me? It means I need someone I can trust, he said. Someone who understands what it means to run a restaurant fairly. Someone who doesn't pick and choose who gets treated with dignity. She hesitated. I still don't see what this has to do with me. Thomas's following words stopped her cold. I want you to come back. As the new manager. Lisa's breath caught. What? You heard me, Thomas said. I fired your manager this morning. Daniel's done. I'm not interested in anyone else taking over. You know how people should be treated. That's exactly what La La Land Kitchen needs. She stared out the windshield, her mind spinning. Less than a day ago, she'd been tossed aside like she didn't matter. Now, she was being offered the very position of the man who'd fired her. I don't know if I can do this, she admitted. Yes, you can, Thomas said firmly. And you should. She thought of Stephen's mocking voice, Matthew's smug silence, and Daniel's dismissive tone. They'd counted her out, thought they'd gotten rid of her for good. But now, she had a chance to be the change they never saw coming. Lisa took a slow breath. I'll do it, she said. Thomas let out a satisfied breath. Good. Come in Daniel morning. You start at 8. She hung up and sat in stunned silence, the reality of it all sinking in. Less than a day ago, she'd walked out of La La Land Kitchen with nothing. Daniel, she'd be stepping back in as the boss. The next morning, Lisa stood outside La La Land Kitchen, gripping the strap of her bag. The air was sharp, but she barely felt it. She'd spent all night thinking about this moment. Yesterday, she'd walked out with no job, no explanation, no respect. Today, she was stepping back in with the one thing Stephen, Matthew, and Daniel had never imagined she would have: power. She inhaled deeply, squared her shoulders, and pushed open the door. The scent of fresh coffee and bacon filled the air, just like always. Castanilleras were scattered across the booths, forks clinking against plates. The low hum of conversation blending with the radio in the background. At first, nobody noticed her. Then Stephen turned from the counter, saw her, and froze. Matthew, laughing with a busboy, caught sight of her too, his mouth snapping shut mid-sentence. A flicker of something, confusion, unease, crossed his face. Lisa let the moment stretch just long enough for them to squirm before walking toward the counter, setting her bag down with purpose. Stephen recovered first. "What the hell are you doing here?" Lisa tilted her head. "You'll find out soon enough." Before Stephen could say anything else, a door opened at the back. Daniel stepped out from the office, already looking irritated, flipping through a stack of papers. "Stephen, I need you to." Then he saw Lisa. His whole body went rigid. "Lisa," he said slowly, "you don't work here anymore." Lisa smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Actually," she said, "I do." Another voice cut in. "I believe I can clarify that." Every head in the room turned. Thomas Lyon walked in, calm and collected, hands in the pockets of his tailored coat. He scanned the room, taking his time before landing on Daniel. Thomas's voice was steady and measured but carried authority. "As of this morning, La La Land Kitchen has undergone some management changes. Effective immediately, Daniel, your position is terminated." Stephen gasped. Matthew looked like he'd been punched in the gut. Daniel's face turned an ugly shade of red. "Wait a damn minute. I've already heard enough from you." Thomas cut him off. Thomas turned to the rest of the staff. "Some of you may be wondering what's going on. Let me make it simple. Last night, I visited this restaurant as a regular customer. What I witnessed was unacceptable. This woman," he gestured to Lisa, "was the only employee who treated me with respect, the only one who did her job the way it should be done. The rest of you ignored me or made it clear you had no interest in serving certain customers at all. That ends today." The silence in the restaurant was thick. "Lisa is your new manager." Stephen's mouth fell open. Matthew's jaw clenched. The busboy looked like he wanted to clap. Lisa finally let herself smile. She turned towards Stephen and Matthew, who were still stunned and silent, and leaned against the counter. "Well," she said lightly, "this is awkward." Stephen's expression twisted. "You..." Thomas cut her off. "You don't like it? You're free to leave." Matthew looked like he was doing the math in his head. Lisa just smiled back. "Looks like we all have a lot of adjusting to do. So let's get to work." The new era at La La Land Kitchen had begun. And for the first time, Lisa felt respected, by herself most of all. The first week with Lisa as manager at La La Land Kitchen felt like someone had thrown open a window after years of stale air. The old routines, Stephen's eye rolls, Matthew's lazy shortcuts, the silent, unspoken rules about who deserved good service, were suddenly up for grabs. The staff didn't know what to make of it. Lisa herself felt the weight of every decision, every glance, every whispered conversation behind her back. She arrived early each morning, unlocking the front door while the sky was still dark and the air outside hovered around 48 degrees Fahrenheit. The diner was quiet then. The only sounds were the hum of the refrigerators and the distant rumble of a delivery truck a few blocks away. Lisa would walk the floor, run her hand over the formica tables, check the coffee machines, and make a mental list of what needed fixing. She wanted to see the place with new eyes, her eyes, not Daniel's, not Stephen's, not anyone else's. Stephen was the first to test her. On Lisa's second day as manager, a family came in, a single mom with 3 kids, all under 10, their clothes a little worn but clean. Stephen made a face when she saw them. "They never tip," she muttered, grabbing menus with a sigh. Lisa caught her at the service station. "I'll take them," she said quietly. Stephen shrugged, handing over the menus, but her eyes narrowed. Lisa greeted the family with a genuine smile, crouched down to talk to the kids, and made sure their pancakes came out extra fast. When they left, the mom slipped a $5 bill under her coffee cup. It wasn't much, but it was more than Stephen had ever gotten from them. Matthew was subtler. He started coming in late, dragging his feet on side work, making a show of how little he cared about the new order of things. Lisa didn't call him out in front of the others. Instead, she waited until the end of a slow shift and then asked him to stay behind. "I know this is weird," she said, her voice steady, "but I need you on board. If you can't do the job, let me know now." Matthew looked at her for a long moment, then shrugged. "Whatever. I need the hours." "Then show me you deserve them," Lisa replied, starting Daniel Oro. Some of the old-timers, servers who had been there longer than Lisa, cooks who remembered when the place had a jukebox, watched her with guarded curiosity. They weren't sure if she'd last or if the changes would stick. But Lisa made a point of listening. She asked the kitchen staff for their input on the menu, let the busboys rearrange the storage room, and thanked the dishwasher, Linda, by name every night before she left. The changes didn't happen overnight. There were rough days, Stephen snapping at a new hire, Matthew forgetting an order, Lisa catching herself second-guessing every move. But slowly, the atmosphere shifted. The regulars noticed first. Old Mr. William, who always sat at the counter with his crossword, started chatting with Lisa about his grandkids. A group of construction workers, who'd stopped coming in after a run-in with Daniel, returned and left a 20 on the table with a note. "Thanks for the respect." Noah, the college kid who bussed tables at night, pulled Lisa aside one evening. "It feels different here," he said, his voice low. "People actually seem happier." Lisa smiled. "That's the goal." Even Stephen began to thaw just a little. She still grumbled. But Lisa caught her refilling a Cuz Daniela's coffee without being asked or wiping down a booth after a family left. Matthew, too, started showing up on time. His jokes were less biting, and his service was more attentive. Lisa didn't make a big deal out of it. She just nodded, let them know she noticed, and kept moving forward. One afternoon, about 2 weeks into her new role, Thomas Lyon walked in. He wore the same simple clothes as before, but now everyone knew who he was. The staff straightened up, and Lisa felt a flicker of nerves. She met him at the door, her hands only slightly sweaty. "How's my investment doing?" Thomas asked, a twinkle in his eye. Lisa grinned. "Better every day." He looked around, taking in the busy dining room. The laughter from a booth in the corner, the way the staff moved with purpose. "I can see that," he said. "You've made quite the impression." Lisa shrugged, but she couldn't hide her pride. "It's not just me. The team's stepping up." Thomas nodded. "That's what good leadership does. It brings out the best in people." They sat at the counter, and Lisa poured him a cup of coffee. As they talked, she told him about the changes, how she'd rewritten the schedule to give everyone a fair shot at the best shifts, how she'd started a tip pool so the kitchen staff got a share, how she'd posted a sign by the register. "All are welcome. All are respected." Thomas listened, his expression thoughtful. "You know, when I started this place, I wanted it to feel like home. Somewhere people could come and be treated right, no matter who they were." Lisa nodded. "That's what I want, too." He smiled. "You're doing a hell of a job." As Thomas left, Lisa felt a surge of gratitude, and a sense of responsibility. She knew the job wasn't done. There would always be challenges, always someone unhappy with change, always another problem to solve. But for the first time, she felt like she was exactly where she belonged. That night, as she closed up, Lisa lingered by the front window, watching the neon sign flicker in the dark. She thought about her first day, about the fear, the anger, and the uncertainty. She thought about Stephen and Matthew, Noah and Linda, Thomas, and the lesson he'd taught her. That doing the right thing might cost you, but it's always worth it. She turned off the lights, locked the door, and stepped out into the cool night air. The city was quiet, the stars bright above the rooftops. Lisa took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and walked toward home, ready for whatever Daniel Oro would bring. The first Saturday morning of Lisa's new life as a manager at La La Land Kitchen dawned gray and damp. The kind of California spring day that made the neon sign outside the diner glow brighter than usual. She stood at the front window, watching the rain streak down the glass. Her reflection superimposed over the parking lot. Her new title still felt strange, like a jacket that didn't quite fit, stiff in the shoulders but promising warmth if she just kept wearing it. Inside, the diner was already awake. The kitchen sizzled with the sound of bacon and eggs, the air thick with the scent of coffee and fried potatoes. The regulars were trickling in: Mr. William with his crossword, the Morales family with their 3 squirming kids, and a couple of construction guys in mud-caked boots. Lisa greeted each one with a nod or a smile, her confidence growing just a little every time someone smiled back. But not everyone was happy to see her. Stephen moved behind the counter with tight, precise motions, lips pressed in as she poured coffee. Matthew leaned against the wall near the register, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. The tension between them and Lisa was palpable, like static before a storm. The rest of the staff, Noah, the busboy, Linda in the kitchen, and a couple of new hires, watched, waiting to see which way the wind would blow. Lisa spent her first week as a manager listening more than talking. She'd taken notes on what worked and what didn't, who was trying, and who was just getting by. She'd started small, making sure everyone got a break, rotating the best shifts, asking for input on the menu. She'd posted a sign by the door: "All are welcome. All are respected." Some customers noticed and nodded in approval. Others just shrugged and ordered their usual. The real test came that Saturday afternoon. Around 1 p.m., the lunch rush hit hard. Every booth was full, the line at the door growing, the kitchen barking out orders. Lisa moved from table to table, helping wherever she was needed, refilling coffee, running plates, clearing dishes. She caught Stephen skipping over a table of college kids in hoodies, barely glancing at them before moving on to a family on Sunday best. Lisa stepped in, her voice low but firm. "Stephen, can you take table 7's order?" Stephen shot her a look. "They're not my section. Today, everyone's your section," Lisa replied. "We're slammed. Let's get it done." Stephen's eyes flashed, but she grabbed her pad and went. Lisa caught a glimpse of Noah watching, a small, approving smile on his face. In the kitchen, Linda was struggling to keep up with the orders. Lisa rolled up her sleeves and jumped in, plating fries, checking tickets, and calling out encouragement. "You got this, Linda. Just keep moving." When the rush finally eased, Linda pulled Lisa aside. "No one's ever helped me like that before," she said, her voice thick with gratitude. Lisa squeezed her shoulder. "We're a team. That's how it should be." The changes weren't always easy. Matthew started coming in late again, slacking on side work and making snide comments to the new hires. Lisa didn't ignore it. She pulled him aside after a shift, her tone calm but unyielding. "If you want to stay, you need to show up. You need to try. I'm not Daniel, and this isn't the old La La Land kitchen." Matthew looked at her, the bravado slipping. "You really think you can change this place?" "I already am," Lisa said. "But I can't do it alone." He didn't answer, but the next day, he was on time, apron clean, attitude subdued. As the weeks passed, the atmosphere in the diner began to shift. The regulars noticed first. Mr. Williams started tipping more, leaving a little note on his receipt. "Thanks for the smile." The Morales kids drew pictures for Linda, taping them to the kitchen door. Even Stephen, grudgingly at first, started to soften. Lisa caught her laughing with Noah one afternoon, the tension melting for a moment. On Thursday evening, Thomas Lyon walked in. He took a seat at the counter, ordered coffee, and watched the room. Lisa felt a flicker of nerves but greeted him with a steady smile. After his meal, he motioned her over. "You're doing good work here," he said, his tone approving. "I can feel the difference." Lisa let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. "It's not just me. The staff is stepping up." Thomas nodded. "That's what real leadership does. It brings out the best in people." He left a generous tip and a word of advice. "Keep listening. Keep caring. That's what makes the difference. That night, as Lisa closed up, she found Stephen wiping down the counter. The diner was quiet. The only sound was the hum of the refrigerators and the rain tapping against the windows. Stephen hesitated, then spoke. I was wrong about you. Lisa looked up, surprised. Stephen shrugged, not meeting her eyes. I thought you'd be like Daniel. But you're not. You actually give a damn. Lisa smiled, warmth blooming in her chest. Thanks, Stephen. That means a lot. Stephen nodded, then turned back to her work. It wasn't a friendship, not yet, but it was a start. As spring turned to summer, La La Land Kitchen found its rhythm. The new hires brought fresh energy. The regulars kept coming back, and the staff, old and new, began to trust Lisa's vision. She started a staff suggestion box, posted the best ideas on the break room wall, and celebrated small wins. A record day in tips, a glowing Yelp review, and a new dish that sold out in hours. One afternoon, a woman came in with her teenage son. They looked nervous, scanning the room. Lisa greeted them, found them a booth, and made sure they felt welcome. As they left, the woman pressed a note into Lisa's hand. Thank you for treating us like we mattered. It read. We'll be back. That night, Lisa sat in her tiny apartment, the note on her kitchen table, and realized something had changed. She wasn't just a manager. She was a leader. She'd taken a place that once felt cold and unfair and helped turn it into a community, a place where kindness was valued, where respect was the rule, not the exception. The journey wasn't over. There would be more rough days, more pushback, and more lessons to learn. But Lisa knew now that she was strong enough to face them. She'd found her voice, her purpose. And most importantly, a way to make a difference. As the neon sign outside La La Land Kitchen glowed in the summer dusk, Lisa smiled, ready for whatever came next. The first hints of autumn crept into Los Angeles, California. Crisp mornings, a golden wash across the city, and the faintest chill in the air as Lisa unlocked the doors of La La Land Kitchen. The neon sign flickered to life, casting its familiar red glow on the sidewalk. It had been 2 months since she'd returned, not as a waitress, but as the manager. The diner was hers to shape now. And every day, she felt both the weight and the wonder of that responsibility. Inside, the place was transformed. Not by new booze or a fancy espresso machine, but by something harder to buy. Respect. The regulars noticed it first. Mr. William, who used to sit silently at the counter, now greeted Lisa with a wink and a joke. The Morales family, once rushed through their meals, lingered over pancakes, and the kids drew pictures for Linda in the kitchen. Even the air felt different, lighter, warmer, like the place itself was breathing easier. But change hadn't come easy. Stephen still worked the breakfast shift, but her sarcasm had softened, replaced by a wary professionalism. Matthew, after a few rocky weeks, had started showing up on time, his jokes less biting, his service more genuine. Some old faces had left, servers who couldn't adjust, who missed the old hierarchy. In their place were new hires: Noah, the college kid who worked nights and always had a kind word for the dish crew; Tasha, who brought homemade muffins for the team on Sundays; and Marcus, a single dad who worked the grill and always had a story for the kids. Lisa's leadership was quiet but firm. She set the tone by example, never asking anyone to do what she wouldn't. Never raising her voice, always listening. She started a tip pool so the kitchen staff got their share, rotated the best shifts, and made sure everyone got a break, even on the busiest days. She posted a sign by the register. All are welcome. All are respected. It wasn't just a slogan, it was a promise. One morning, a new family came in, a mom with 2 kids, their clothes a little worn, their eyes wide as they scanned the menu. Lisa greeted them with a smile, crouched down to talk to the kids, and made sure their breakfast was perfect. When they left, the mom pressed a note into Lisa's hand. Thank you for treating us like we mattered. Lisa kept the note in her wallet, a reminder of why she did what she did. The staff began to trust her. Bit by bit. Linda, who had always kept to herself, started sharing recipes and stories from her hometown. Noah suggested a new system for cleaning up after the lunch rush, and Lisa let him run with it. Tasha asked if they could do a fundraiser for a local shelter, and Lisa put up a sign and matched the first $50. Even Stephen, after a particularly hectic Sunday, pulled Lisa aside and muttered, "You're not so bad, you know." It wasn't a friendship, not yet, but it was a start. Thomas Lyon stopped by every few weeks, always at odd hours, always watching more than he spoke. One afternoon, he sat at the counter, sipping coffee as Lisa finished paperwork. "You've done good work here," he said, his voice low. "This place feels alive again." Lisa smiled, brushing a stray hair from her face. "It's not just me. The team stepped up." Thomas nodded. "That's what real leadership does. It brings out the best in people." She thought back to that awful morning, fired for doing the right thing, walking out with nothing. Now she was building something better. Not just for herself, but for everyone who walked through the door. The lesson wasn't lost on her. Sometimes, doing the right thing meant risking everything. But sometimes, it meant you gained more than you ever imagined. As the weeks passed, La La Land Kitchen became more than a diner. It became a community. Customers brought in photos of their kids, left thank you notes, and told friends to stop by. The staff started celebrating birthdays together, sharing meals after closing, and supporting each other through tough times. The tip jar filled faster, and the Yelp reviews turned from complaints to praise. One chilly Friday night, Lisa sat with Noah and Linda after closing. The radio played soft country, and the lights dimmed low. They talked about their dreams. Noah wanted to finish school and teach, and Linda hoped to open a bakery someday. Lisa listened, offering encouragement, knowing that her job was as much about nurturing people as it was about running a business. Stephen lingered by the door, watching them. She hesitated, then joined the table, her expression softer than Lisa had ever seen. "You know," she said, "I never thought this place could change. But you proved me wrong." Lisa smiled, her eyes shining. "We all changed it. Together." The next morning, Lisa arrived early. The city was still quiet, and the sky was just beginning to lighten. She unlocked the doors, set the coffee to brew, and stood for a moment in the empty dining room. She thought about her journey, about kindness, about loss, about the courage it took to stand up for what was right. She realized that true leadership wasn't about power or titles. It was about lifting others up, about seeing the best in people, about creating a place where everyone felt they belong. As the first customers arrived, Lisa greeted them by name, her smile genuine, her heart full. She knew there would always be challenges, demanding customers, long hours, tough decisions. But she also knew that La La Land Kitchen was stronger than ever, a place built on respect, kindness, and the belief that everyone deserved a seat at the table. And as the sun rose higher, spilling gold across the formica and chrome, Lisa felt a quiet joy. She had lost her job, her security, her certainty. But she had gained something far greater, a family, a purpose, and the knowledge that doing the right thing, no matter the cost, was always worth it. In the end, that was the legacy she hoped to leave. Not just as a manager but also as someone who believed in the power of kindness, stood up for what was right, and proved that even the smallest acts of respect could change everything. La La Land Kitchen was no longer just a diner. It was a testament to the strength of the human spirit, to the value of every person who walked through its doors, and to the simple, enduring truth that the greatest success comes from lifting others up. And Lisa, standing in the morning light, knew she wouldn't have it any other way.